So first thing I want to say is that my uncle called me up yesterday, and he gave me kind of an interesting story, and I think I should just say it. I've called my uncle an idiot sometimes, and he is. And I guess you kind of need to know the backstory as to why I say things like this. Well, I don't know. He's been on the dole for a very long time, and every now and then they have to fill out forms. I don't understand, if he's on a life plan, why does he still have to fill out benefit forms? But he has to fill out benefit forms, and he couldn't fill out a benefit form, so don't know why. But he went to this office where he was speaking to someone about helping, and this person was helping him fill out this benefit form. And I think he was showing some sort of picture of something that he was told, like an email or something, and I think he ended up showing some picture and was scrolling through his phone, and he just had the police show up to his house yesterday, and he was trying to tell me the story, and I couldn't quite understand, so I had to keep asking the same questions, he had to keep repeating himself over and over again, because I didn't know what he was really saying, because he wasn't really making any sense. But from what I heard, one of the pictures had two brown balls and something in it, and for some reason the person who was helping him fill out the form thought that he had pornography on his phone. I don't know why it mattered if they were real balls, or if like penis balls rather than just normal balls. But yeah, it turned out they were actually just balls in a plastic thing, and I don't know why he had a picture of them. But yeah, at the beginning he was saying that, sometimes, well, he usually sits naked in his house, or just with pants on in his house, and maybe he was playing with his phone, and it sounded to me like he accidentally took a picture of his balls and sent it to this person, who then reported him to the police for sending photographs. But it turned out that that wasn't actually the story, because I kept like, why you? He wasn't explaining himself very well at all. But eventually I got to the thing that he was filling out a form, and she showing a picture on a phone, and there happened to be a picture of some balls on there. And for some reason, after the lady helped this guy, after he helped him fill out the form, she reported him to the police for showing nudity pictures to her, when they weren't nudity pictures, they were just regular brown balls in a bag, and I don't know really what they were or anything. But these stories seem to, my uncle seems to have a lot of these strange stories where where police show up to his house, and there's another time a few months ago, or maybe a year ago, where the police showed up to his house, and they were questioning him about a potential harassment of a 15-year-old. And I kept trying to ask, what is this story? He mumbles so much. Like he mumbles quite a lot. He doesn't pronounce his words very well, and I can't hear the story a lot of times. But eventually it heard out that he was on a bus, and he just spoke to a 15-year-old, and some woman behind could see that he was mentally ill, and then reported him to the police. And I think what it is, because he is mentally ill, and I think it's quite obvious that he's mentally ill, because he's large, and he has a sort of muffle with his voice, so and sometimes he stares right at you in the eye and doesn't blink, and I don't know, there's whatever the drugs that he's been taking all his life, I feel like it's killed his brain. And with the whole not needing to work, and having no point, or no lack, or no purpose in life, no goals, not achieving anything, it seems to have numbed his mind. And I think it's obvious in his appearance that something, if you're jealous of people that have been on benefits all your life, I think if you know what being on benefits on all your life does to you, it really does destroy the mind, because you're not thinking. If he would have learned to be a cleaner, or just something basic, just trained his mind to calm himself if he gets high, rather than rely on drugs and stuff, it would have been better. But because he didn't, he's now ended up with, and sometimes his hand just shakes like that, and because of this, he also believes that there's a high fear of people with mental illness in his area, and therefore people see his mental illness, and they often call the police, not for any justified reason, but just because I think there's a lot of, well, I don't know, but this has happened quite a few times. People have called the police on him, just for doing something that anyone could talk to. Like if you're sitting on a bus and there happens to be a 15 next to yours, and you, I don't know, you end up in a conversation, you know, that would be a completely normal, like, not normal, he wasn't flirting or anything, but I just think, I don't know, he might say some strange things sometimes, but it's not like, he's not, yeah, he definitely wasn't hitting on a 15-year-old. But I think because if you're mentally ill, sometimes people would look at you and see you're mentally ill, and therefore I'm going to deliberately like shortchange you because we don't think you're going to notice. I mean, once he said he gave over a £20 note, and they gave him about £2 change, but he only bought something that was like £4, so he should have got like £16 change, and he ended up getting just £1 or £2. And then afterward he said, I gave you a £20 note, and then it's like, oh no, you gave a 5. And I think because they saw him being mentally ill, they thought he wouldn't be able to tell the difference between him giving a £20 note over versus him giving a £5 note. He always carries £20 notes in his back pocket. But yeah, sometimes people take advantage of it, and I think there's a lot of people that would see someone who's mentally ill and make a report. And apparently the policeman actually took the old lady. There was I don't even know, because I think the old lady called the person, and they actually got off the bus. I don't think it came to the house that time. I think they got off the bus, and because he said that lady got actually taken away and by the police officer because she was the one who was causing the problem, but she called it on him because she was trying to stir up trouble and say that he was doing things when he wasn't, but really she was mentally ill. There is a lot of mental illness, and I think a lot of people are mentally ill. But yes, that's just something I want to say. Another thing that I want to say is I've been going through Becky Hill's songs, and I first listened to 10 songs, and I just I couldn't hear a name. I couldn't really work out what it was, and it was when I went to have a bath. That was when I was just thinking, and then I was thinking, well, maybe she's the computer versus the TV. Maybe she's the TV or something, because there was a couple of words in her songs that made me think she might be the angel of the TV, because she looked like someone from a soap opera, and I was thinking maybe angel of the soap operas or something. And then when I had another look on the phone in the bath, I kind of realised actually she's the angel of the phone, isn't she? I mean, I'm so addicted to the phone, I'm even sitting in a bath on the phone. You shouldn't be on the phone when you're having a bath, but it kind of occurred to me, just me being on a phone in a dark room in a bathtub kind of made me think how important a phone is, and it goes everywhere with you. And then when I started seeing that, I started looking at a lot of her songs, and I was thinking, yeah, I think she's the angel of the phone, because a lot of these songs seem to link to a phone. But it's interesting though, because there's a couple of things that don't link to a phone. Some look like it's almost like promoting a phone, like you'll never you'll always need this or something. That's not something you'll say to a phone, but it's something that you'll say to people about a phone. And then there was another song about needing space. You need, I'm always worried that I'm using up all my space, so I have to free up space for more pictures and stuff. But yeah, I did notice there were a couple of songs that didn't seem to match with that title. So either she's just doesn't have a very strong connection, I felt like even my connection with her isn't very strong, or she also has perhaps a third name which is just kind of like a normal girl. I don't really think she linked to me that much. A lot of her songs seem to it could be about any girl who's addicted to a phone. A lot of people are addicted to a phone. And then finally, third topic I want to talk about is Joss Whedon. And I don't know what's going on with the show, and I don't know if it's going to be this year or who's doing it, but I don't know what people are thinking from their perspective, but that he's a bowled over, move out of the way. I guess I was thinking about the show that I want to do with him. I want him to be the main producer of an exposure show, but I know for a very long time I've been talking about Big Brother and all wanting to get onto Big Brother. Now I'm pretty certain that Big Brother have just pissed me off over and over and over and over again, and I'm really angry that those first 5 years, I was seeing so much evidence that I was going to be on Big Brother, that this was the show that was going to help me, and every single time I spent a whole year sort of obsessing about getting on that show, only to be disappointed by them, and then to have to go through the whole cycle all over again. Okay, maybe it'll be next year, go through the whole excitement. it was painful, very, very painful to have to go through 5 years of just constantly looking. I'm always looking on my phone for when this thing is going to end. But I thought it was going to end with Big Brother, and I believed that for a very long time. But 5 years in a row, they deliberately put that show on, knowing that they weren't going to put me on, and I think it was incredible. If they knew about me and they did that, then it's incredibly cruel, really incredibly cruel, those people. And because of that, I don't want anything to do with the show. And I stopped wanting to have anything to do with the show. But they did stop it for 5 years, and I didn't forgive them or anything, but I still need the exposure show. And then when it came back, I kind of thought that this was a sign that they were going to help me again, and they didn't. And then again, twice they've bought it now, and there's another one that's supposed to be on now, and I don't like the show. I don't even watch the show. I literally just spend a whole year obsessing about the audition process, and then the second the show gets on and I realise that I'm not in, I just feel like they just stabbed me in the chest, and then that's it. I have to wait another year of all. I've never been interested in the show. It's always about getting on the show, and I like the Nikki character, but that had nothing to do with the show. That had something to do with the character, and there was a couple of years that I did generally like, and I spent 8 years wanting to be on that show, only to realise that was God, thinking, okay, that's the reason why I want to be on the show, because I'm God, and I'm really angry with that show, and if I become God, I want to cancel that show. I 100% want to cancel that show. Big Brother is ended. I'm going to tell anyone that if you get on that show, you're showing disloyalty to me, because for many, many, many years, that show has caused me nothing but grief and pain, because I had so much excitement and hope for it, and all fantasizing about all the things that will happen on the show, only to be let down by the show, and for them to just repeat the same process over and over again. And I'm glad that they stopped it for 5 years. I felt like that was a little bit okay, but then they just brought it back and did the whole thing again, and I just, I'm angry with that show, and I want that show permanently stopped. If I can shut down, I don't believe in a cancel culture, but I do definitely want to cancel that. I want to cancel that show out of anger over what it caused me, and what it reminds me of. It reminds me of a bunch of people that just don't give a shit about me. That's what that show reminds me of, and I don't know what they were doing or what they were thinking they were doing, but there does need to be an exposure show, and I'm wondering, just last night, if there was a possibility that they still thought that the people who run that show were going to be helping me in the future, and I don't know I don't know who did it. I don't know who is involved in this show. None of the producers mean anything to me. The script, it doesn't mean anything, because there is no script. Josh Whedon means something to me because I used to love that show when I was when I was Buffy, when I was 15, and I really liked the show, and I feel like I trust the writers of it, because I feel like they've got a high ability to connect with my higher self, and to link with just things that I like, or not necessarily things I like, because there was some pretty dark scriptures in it, but I liked the writing, and there was a lot of things in it that I like, and I know he was in the Justice League. I don't like the Justice League film, but I heard that he came in and then changed everything around, and the show was basically rewritten and it was completely different, and I think one person didn't like it, but I'm not convinced that I really liked that guy, and I don't know, I don't think I like Justice League at all, but I don't even know, I can't remember what happened in it or anything. It just sounds like something only a guy would like, but I don't know what I can't remember what the film was, but yeah, I know I haven't spoken about him probably for this whole time, and I don't even know if I've watched Buffy in the last year. I didn't watch it when I first started realising that, when I first realised that was Christ, because it was very, very clear on my memory. I knew everything. You don't need to watch something if you've seen it so many times before, and I don't know if I've even watched it in the last 12 years. It's definitely less clear on my mind now, because it's been so much time has passed. But yeah, watching some of the episodes just made me realise how actually I like the show, and I like the producers of the show, and I don't know. I knew what Joss Whedon looked like. I'd seen some. There was a few documentaries that I watched where they were talking about the show, so I had an imagery of what he looked like in my head. But I don't think I knew too much about him. But that's more than I had with any other producer. When it comes to all the other shows, who did Big Brother? I've no clue who did Big Brother. They're all anonymous people to me. Okay, Joss Whedon's a little bit anonymous, but he's. I've had an image of him in the back of my head since I was 16, so that's more than I've had with any other film producer. Not David Guetta, but any other film producer. And therefore, I don't know. I don't know what if they were planning or if they were getting involved, or maybe they were never getting involved in the first place, or maybe they don't even know. I don't know. But yeah, I just saw a message today about Celebrity Big Brother being cancelled, and it made me think of that song about him coming in, and I was thinking, I'm always thinking, when am I going to be on this exposure show? And I've been thinking that for such a long time, and now that it's been so long, I realise that I need time to recover first before I go on an exposure show. But I used to do huge amounts of research into Big Brother, because I was convinced that they were just going to call up, you're on the show, pack your bags, you'll be on there tomorrow. I was convinced that was going to happen, and therefore, there's a tiny portion of me that just thinks that maybe one day there will be a Big Brother show that will just start and they'll just welcome me on it or something. But I've said many times that it's been way too long, and you've ignored me for way too long, and hurt me for way too long, that there's no way I'd be on that show any longer. But I don't know how seriously they take what I say, because I know sometimes I say something and then change my mind. So, and yeah, if they did ring me up tomorrow and say, do you want to be on Big Brother? I probably would change my mind, but I wouldn't, because I'm angry. I'm angry. I think if I had a different option, if I don't have a different option, then I have no different option. But if I do have a different option, then I'd rather stick with that. And I think, if Big Brother was to call me, I would rather speak with Joss Whedon about his idea of what a show could be to expose and get. And the timings, I think, is pretty much the summer, not the spring. But I don't know. I'm open to changing my plans, because I don't have any plan. You can't make a plan for a show by yourself. You need a group of people to make it, and that's what I need. I need a small group of people to help. There's a few things that I want to do first, definitely, but I need a small group of people to talk to them, and then to expose me as Christ and God, but make it look like it's only me that thinks this, but others might think this too. Everyone has to agree on Christ, the word, or most have to agree on Christ, but not everyone has to. Only me should agree on the word God. But yeah, and I don't know if the fake sacrifice is going to be at the same show, or if it's going to be a separate show. I can't do anything, because I'm not a production team. I'm a person.